We're seeing automation go deeper and deeper into the operating agency. And we've been tracking this for a number of years now. And you can see it primarily around the evolution of the orders business. So the automation layer that sits above the auction, that's really the automation layer around direct buying and selling, and is reflective of that trading relationship between an advertiser and a media owner. Okay, and so a lot of what's happening has been, how do you take automation and make sure it is considered, it is a leverage point at the point that strategy comes about and planning comes about. And this is in stark contrast to a number of years ago when automation was really only considered after a plan was written and really at the point you were into the buying mechanic already. So the fact that we're pushing this earlier and earlier into the process is significant, because the approach to automation winds up being much more holistic on the side of the buyer. And one of the specific examples is Digitas. Now, historically, an orders platform was always chosen and designated by one of our media partners. But in the case of an agency like Digitas, what they've learned is to remove friction on their side. It's quite advantageous to also be the specifier of an orders platform. And we've worked with them to activate their most important trading partnerships in this order automation space. So that's quite significant, and I think a big milestone for the business generally. What that means is historically an agency would call out to 3 different media owners and say they wanted to engage in order automation with them. Okay, 2 of those media owners may have been on Rubicon project platform, and 1 of them may have been on another platform. Okay, and by nature of there being multiple platforms there, that introduces back to the buyer a lot of operational complexity for a lot of reasons that we could talk about for hours. But just like the media owner sees advantage, and you're seeing a lot of consolidation on platforms on that side, you're seeing the same thing on the buy side, and not just on auction-based platforms, but also in the order-based platforms, so that they can curate and they can steward their key trading relationships with their most important media owner partners. Pangea is the latest cooperative to be powered by Rubicon project. We actually have seen a proliferation of these co-ops initially across markets like Europe, so in France, in Czech Republic, in Denmark. And in those cases, what you're seeing is the best endemic publishers wanting to just not answer the value proposition around quality, but also start to answer the proposition around quality at scale by coming together. And a lot of that is driven by overnight, you've seen Google and Facebook go into these markets. They can go in without a lot of infrastructure and overnight enter that scale opportunity for advertisers. So how can the endemic publishers in these markets get together and collectively do the same? So we've been seeing that, and you will see more of that in markets around the world. Now, Pangea is slightly different. So Pangea is a consortium that includes Guardian, FT, CNN, and Reuters. Now, what's interesting there is you have global news brands, and although they may be headquartered and run out of a specific market, because they're so global in nature, their traffic, their consumers are literally in markets all over the world, right? So you've seen a couple things there. One is historically, pre-automation, even though they had a lot of activity in markets around the world, they typically focused monetization on 1 or 2 or 3 core markets. But even pre-cooperative, okay, automation lets them very quickly parachute in sales and account in a market. And because you can now centralize a lot of the automation piece and automate it, you can spin that piece up and support those sellers and those account people pretty quickly. So it makes these companies much more nimble when they're looking at an additional market entry. And then in many ways, the cooperative is just the next stage of that, where they can also kind of federate together and provide scale around some of the most trusted news brands in the world. When you hear Rubicon Project talk about automation or talk about how our platform works, you will hear us talk about the auction and about orders. So about when media owners act in a one-to-many capacity or in a one-to-one capacity. And quite intentionally, we don't spend a lot of time discussing the distinction between mobile or display or video, because those marketplaces support all of those. And we're moving towards a cross-screen world where the advertiser wants to find the consumer no matter where they are and be able to be nimble enough to do that. So our approach to video has been cautious in terms of wanting to really pull together quality and quality assets, and also looking hard at that order space, because your best assets, no matter what medium they are, right, mobile, display, or video, typically are developed in that one-to-one trading relationship. So that's one of the areas we focused on to make sure that orders platform can seamlessly run between a video, a mobile, or display assets.